If you've been in the wrapping industry for any time now, I'm sure you've heard of FlexiShield. And if you're new or you just haven't heard of it yet, FlexiShield is a newer product that they call colored PPF or paint protection film. And I would say it's definitely an advanced film. And typically, I wouldn't recommend it if it's your first time wrapping. So here's a real time video of myself working with the product and giving you some pointers. I also wanted to add that I am not affiliated with FlexiShield at all, so I'm going to show you the gripes I have with the material. What's up, guys? Quick video here on how to use the FlexiShield colored PPF film. So you can see looks beautiful here. Did this fender here up front and the door. This is the Iceberg color. So it's kind of like a teal and purple. I've also done another car with the Galaxy. So this is more of like a darker blue with a violet type of color. A little bit darker version of that, basically. So procedure is basically the same as vinyl wrapping. Have to strip everything down for it to look good, to be able to wrap deep into every panel, make it all look clean, tuck in all the edges. A little bit different though, because this is about twice as thick as normal vinyl. So you can take a look at how the air release works. It works pretty good, just like any other vinyl, really. Does take a little bit of finessing, and some bubbles don't come out, so that does add a little bit of complexity. And first thing I noticed on the other car I did as well was how tacky this film is. Super tacky. The initial tack is crazy, so you need a lot of you're gonna need to use a lot of energy to pull it off of panels that it sticks down to, and that makes it especially challenging when you're doing flat panels like the roof, like the roof and the hood, which are horizontal. And if you're doing that alone, it's pretty tricky, but I do everything alone, and with some time, it's definitely possible. It's just hard. But definitely if you could get someone to help you out, 2-3 people, super handy. Let's say if this was like the hood here, a flat panel, you could have one person here holding the 2 corners here and another person holding the 2 corners there, and then someone heating it with a heat gun. Or what I like to use is a heat lamp, something like this guy right here. I got this on Amazon. I think it's like 150 bucks. Very nice to have if you are doing a lot of cars, and super useful if you're doing it by yourself, especially on things like bumpers and things that need stretch going across the whole panel. And with the front panel, I could have a stretch going across the whole length of the bumper, and that way I don't have to pull to get into there. Anyone who's wrapped a car with normal film would know that it's just a little bit harder with FlexiShield since it is so thick. So you definitely want to use one of these heat guns or heat lamps if you could. Highly recommend picking one up. On panels like doors, so that's the rear door I'm doing right now. I already did the front. What you want to do is you normally would just glass a panel out when you do vinyl. Any typical vinyl like Avery, 3M, KPMF. KPMF's kind of tricky. It's kind of like similar to this. But what you normally would do is just glass it out, stretch it out, make sure it's all flat, and then squeegee everything. This one, you could glass it out if you want to, but it's definitely more tricky. And I've found that this is probably better to go down as you go, as you wrap. So kind of like this, you see, I started with the top there, tacked that all down, and then I'm gonna use a squeegee, and I'll set you guys down on a tripod in a little bit. But basically, I'm going down the whole panel like this, squeegeeing down, just like you would after a panel's glassed. So I'll set you guys on the tripod and show you that right now. As you can see, I still have the backing paper partially on there. And this is just how I've been doing it, and it works for me. There are obviously different ways you could do it. You could glass it out. It just takes a lot of effort because of how thick it is, like I said. So as you go down and squeegee down, you peel the backing paper a little bit off. I'm actually gonna have to do these here. Give it a little bit of heat as I go, because not everything could be pressed out the way it could be with vinyl. So you can see I actually will do a little bit of glassing here. And again, if you're not sure what glassing is, it basically means you're just pulling out the material so it has no creases or anything like that. And then you tack down the edges so that it can be squeegeed down. Essentially, that's what I am doing, but in very, very small sections, not the whole panel at once like I normally do. And if you've worked with KPMF, which is a similar, you kind of work similar to this, even though it's not as thick. It just doesn't like to glass as good either. It kind of prefers to be applied like this, little by little. It would be a little bit easier if you had used KPMF before. Also, I forgot to mention, there is a clear plastic release liner that comes off before you start wrapping. So basically cut out the piece is what I like to do, and then I take off the paper, that clear film, and then I start working with it after that. And it's pretty forgiving with scratches since it is a PPF. I haven't had any issues with scratches staying in the film after squeegeeing, but obviously just use a fresh buffer and you should be fine. Should probably switch this one out soon. So again, just holding tension on this piece, and with the backing paper like that, it allows me to have a nice straight line rather than having the whole paper all loose and sticking if I put it down. It's nice to be able to just pull with one hand and have everything have even tension all the way across. And this panel doesn't really need any heat since it's relatively flat. But if you do have a panel that's curved, like most cars do, you could always use a little bit of heat as you go. Pull it out, work in sections, maybe 6 to 8 inches like that. Heat it up a little bit, pull it from the sides, keep it nice and tight without overstretching, and it should be solid. Alright, we're gonna get to the crease here soon, this body line. With a lot of films you can stretch into there. It's not that hard of a crease, but with any film, it could be better to lay into there rather than stretching. And this one, especially FlexiShield, you really want to lay into there because although it does have a very strong initial tack, I have found that this adhesive does come off from the film itself after a few days sometimes if you put too much tension on it. It's not like most vinyls where the vinyl itself will start coming off. This one, the adhesive comes apart from the material itself. I contacted FlexiShield on this issue of adhesive separation, and they stated that it is due to using alcohol to prep the panel. Although this is hard to believe and it seems like they're deflecting the issue, I guess it is possible. Alright, now we're working past that body line. Just gonna finish up the rest of this panel. And you can see how that backing paper right here really helps me keep everything nice and even if I'm pulling on it with one hand. So that's super, super nice to have. And this backing paper is super thick, so keeps everything really nice and rigid. If you're somewhat new to wrapping, then you might not know that if you pull with one hand, you're gonna probably end up with a lot of vertical lines in the middle here. And what the backing paper helps me do is keeps that pulling force even laterally, so that force that I'm pulling down with stays consistent across the whole panel. And again, we have a small curve here again. So with normal film, you could always just kind of get to the bottom of it, glass it out, and then heat this up and push it out with a wrap glove. It'll go across. But with this film, you really want to take your time and lay into that little crevice. All right, so we're all done with that. You can see that crazy gloss. Almost looks like chrome. It's just so glossy. You can see the reflection perfectly and a lot of that flake. And the really cool thing about these FlexiShield films, opposed to the 3M or Avery color shifts, they're super vibrant in the sun. So these really, really bright. You can see it from far away. It just stands out. It's almost like a highlighter kind of color. Whereas the 3M, or Avery, let's say like the Avery Roaring Thunder that I have in my truck, kind of blends in. It's not as bright as this color is. As you can see up top, very, very saturated, vibrant color. All right, and one last thing that I didn't mention is, since this is a colored PPF, it has the hydrophobic properties of PPF, and that also means it doesn't want dirt to stick, and most importantly, it really doesn't like sticking product to itself, basically. So this becomes very important when you're doing inlays. So like I said, when I'm doing that bumper there, when I have to do the inlays, like in here, what I have to do is use a little bit of Primer 94. I hate using Primer 94, but in this case, it really is necessary for a long-lasting job. So you dip a Q-tip into there, and I'll just show you really quick how you're gonna wanna do the inlays. You just want to have a very thin line on the edge. Hopefully you saw that, maybe 1/8 of an inch. And then when you do your inlay, obviously you want it to dry first, but you're gonna wanna lay, obviously like you do your inlays with your seams, and that area that you just did Primer 94 on will stick nicely and not come off, because if you go without it, you'll probably have your customer come back complaining that it's coming apart, especially if you have a little bit of tension there. I do want to say that besides their issues with the adhesive and the several print defects I've had, the gloss is amazing and the colors are extremely vibrant and saturated. Especially when I compare them to 3M or Avery or KPMF, these cars stand out from a mile away.